Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You're listening to our D&D game. I'm your host, the DM. Um, if you haven't seen the last couple adventures, check them out first, because this one is the middle of the story. Um, Happy New Year's Eve, by the way, to everybody. As I'm recording this, it is about 11:30 p.m. and actually everybody's at my house right now. We're in the middle of playing the game right now. We took an intermission, so this video is going to be pretty quick. Just to kind of let you guys know what we're doing in real time, you know. Um, so the prologue to this is that the party made camp in room 130. They took a long rest, they healed, got some hit points back, so on and so forth. And are good to go again. So then we go to the plot of the game, and that is the PCs head to room 133, which is the ante room, where there are 4 human guards, and the PCs kill all 4 of them. They move on to room 134, which is the inner chamber. There are 8 human guards. Again, PCs take them out. Next was room 135, the lounge. 8 guards. PCs took them out. Room 136. This was an interesting one. There was a level 5 commander and a level 3 lieutenant here. And Voltaris Yol, who had been knocked out for a long time, who hadn't been adventuring, he finally woke up from all the damage he had taken. And so he had a fresh breath weapon. He was the half dragon, half drow. So he can use his breath weapon, I think, once a day. It point being, he used it on these guys, and that was a really good use of that attack. Next we went to room 137. This was another really cool moment. Because we got a werebear in the party, and he just has insane strength. And so there was an evil cleric in this room, and the bear throws. They kept telling us in these different rooms, which I'm not mentioning all the treasure. Um, it was a lot of really mundane stuff. There was hardly anything cool. It was a lot of like, you find some short swords, you find some brown cloaks, and it was a lot of stuff like that, right? But one of the things that kept coming up is you find a barrel of oil. You find a barrel of oil. And it was for these various lamps and stuff throughout the dungeon. Well, so in the one room they were just in, there was this big barrel of oil. So the bear basically does his Donkey Kong impression, and he throws this barrel of oil at an evil cleric. And his religion is the stuff they're into here in the Temple of Elemental Evil, right? So it's nothing good. But he hits him with this barrel, and then the PCs light the guy on fire, and it was awesome. But I think I left out the part where the bear rolls a nat 20, and I carry on the tradition from 3rd edition, which is if you roll 3 20s in a row, it's this spectacular kill, right? So he rolls a second time and he gets another nat 20. We're like, oh, you know, he rolls the third time, got an 18. So we're like, that's pretty good. You know, it's not the 20 thing. Um, but as you know, so our take on it was that was kind of our fireworks for the night. And then there was a bunch of stuff in this room. It just so happens they mentioned like, oh, there's a sofa and there's some chairs and there's a this and there, like, there was so much stuff in this room, was like either cloth or wood or whatever. Very flammable room. Um, so yeah, that was room 137. That was one of the coolest moments in the night. Next they went to 146. This was this was a really messed up part. Um, so it's a trap. As they go in, it says that, as long as the person weighs more than 100 pounds, and they stuck the bear up front so that if anything bad happened, it happened to him, right? So as long as there's more than 100 pounds on the floor, it triggers this trap. And the way, like, I found the module, and granted, this is a New Year's Eve party, and people have had some drinks and stuff, so maybe bear that in mind. But I found this module to be really user unfriendly in terms of how it's laid out. It has a lot of typos. Um, like orcs. I can't remember now how they were spelling it, but like they misspelled orcs a bunch. Um, at any rate, there's problems with the module, right? Physically, I mean, the physical book, there's problems with it. And so the trap doesn't like, and everybody looked at the book and it didn't make sense to any of us. So in a situation like that, I just start pulling stuff out of my butt and I kind of do my own thing and I figure it's close enough. So what we said was the the floor is pressure sensitive. As soon as the bear steps on it, the stairs fold, kind of like an escalator, right? And it's slippery and there's nothing to hold on to. And so the bear, who's just the only one in the door at that point, slides into a 10-foot deep pit. Here's the thing, in his hybrid mode, where he's like an anthro, he's 13 feet tall. So 3 feet of him is still sticking up out of the pit, right? And so the what was in the pit was not clear. And so we went with the idea that it is a gelatinous cube. That basically he slides down what is essentially like a water slide, and what's in the bottom of the thing is this gelatinous cube, 10-foot cube. Um, and so once he's in it, we talked about whether or not he would take damage because he has the scabbard of Excalibur as a magic item he's carrying. And that is in Deities and Demigods. And it basically says as long as a person's wearing it, they can't take physical damage. So we're like, well, what happens when it's in the cube? And it's like, well, does he not take damage? Or does this, can the scabbard itself still take damage? It raised a lot of rules questions. We kind of debated it. And what we ended up going with was, um, there's a clockwork dragon that is, he's in the party. He's a druid. Um, and I saw this online where someone made a transformer out of a clockwork dragon druid. And the way it works is normally a druid is made of flesh and blood, and so when they turn into animals and stuff, the idea is they can shapeshift into things that are also flesh and blood. So what this person online had done is they made a clockwork um, character of some sort. I don't think it was a dragon in that case, but the point is, by having a clockwork character do the druid thing, you turn into things that are your type. So what that means is he is basically an object, right? An inorganic object who can then turn into other inorganic objects. So as a big Transformers fan, I thought it was a neat idea to have kind of like a steampunk transformer in the party. And so the way it reads in the book is he's a large creature, I want to say. And so he can turn into any large object or anything smaller than that. So we just had him become a ladder. And we also ruled that since he's metal and stuff like that, that he would be immune to a gelatinous cube. Um, so the bear, gets out using the ladder. We opted that the scabbard would not burn, that the scabbard was also invulnerable. Um, and there were some barrels of water and stuff around, so he took his stuff off and he put it in the water to kind of try to neutralize what the gelatinous cube had done to him. At any rate, that was room 146. And everybody here at the party tonight unanimously agreed, like, that was kind of a BS room. Nobody liked that room. And then we get into the typos again. In the text, it says that as soon as that happens, 24 giant rats attack the party. But then in the stat block, it says 114 giant rats attack the party. I thought 114 is probably not what they intended. So we went with 24. At any rate, the Clockwork Dragon takes care of them. Everybody else had to retreat. They end up going back into the first room. We're talking about level 1 of the dungeon. The first room they entered was this huge dirt area with like pyramids in it. They went back to that room. Um, and the Clockwork Dragon dealt with all the rats. Which you talking about Transformers again. I was reminded of Transformers the movie where Grimlock is stepping on Sharkticons. Kind of similar idea. Moving on, 147 had 3 bugbears in it. Party took care of them. 151 was the next one they went to. Secret Corridor. This was jail cells. This was really interesting too. It looks like there are these disheveled humans in jail cells that need to be rescued. The Air Maiden goes into one of these cells, which, by the way, Air Maidens are also from deities and demigods in the oh, I want to say Finnish. I think it's the Finnish pantheon. I don't know. They're kind of like Valkyries, but point being, she goes into one of the jail cells to help one of these quote unquote humans, and it turns out he's a zombie. And kind of a house rule thing I do, I kind of tweak zombies in my game. So he bites her and he turns her into a zombie. And we were like, well, that's really interesting because the air maidens respawn when you kill them. And so that it sparked another debate about, well, is the zombie thing like a disease, or how does it actually work? And um I was like, well, they're undead though. You can turn undead so they're dead. So the instant she becomes a zombie, she's going to respawn. But that said, you still have to fight her old body because we always show her she when she respawns, she has to go loot her old body like in a video game, get her stuff back. So the zombie version of her character had all of her gear, including I think want to say it's a +3 Frostbrand sword. So we had her attack the party. We had some brief player versus player. Bear used his great sword and he cut her in half up and down. Because that way he was cutting through brain. At any rate, and then the respawned Air Maiden loots the zombie body, gets her stuff back. They go on to room 150, more jail cells. This was an interesting bit in the adventure too. There's this gnome in there, and his alignment is neutral. He's neither good or bad, but he sort of like wants to join the party, and he wants cut in on the loot, and he ends up getting in kind of a fight with party members. And I can't remember who it was now that did it, but one of the PCs kind of pushes him in a way, verbally, I mean. They start it. And so he's a spellcaster. And so he's gonna fight him. Like they come to blows, and he's getting ready to cast some sort of a spell. And the big 9 foot tall green chick in the chainmail bikini, who's like part orc and part ogre and all that stuff, kills him. That was kind of a big moment in the game where half the party was like, no, that was justified, that was okay. And the other half of everybody was like, no, that was not okay. He's not like basically everything else in the dungeon has been. He's we needed to rescue him basically. At any rate, moving on, because I need to get back to the actual party at my house right now. Room 153, Spiral Staircase. If you remember several adventures ago, they found a tower above ground, a big round tower. There was a giant crow on the top. They had to take out like some insane number of guys. There were like 60 guys stationed there or something. Um, that tower was such a pain, it caused a party kill, and everybody had to make new characters, basically, right? At any rate, when they finally beat everything in the tower and they thought that was the entrance to the dungeon, there was the top half of a spiral staircase was there, and there'd been like kind of a rock slide thing that was blocking that staircase, right? So here coming up from the bottom, that's what number 153 is it's this spiral staircase in the rock slide. So I mentioned the big green chick in the chainmail bikini. She has this ability, I want to say it's called rock catching. And so the idea is when she starts to move boulders and stuff from the bottom and she's strong enough, she can just toss them aside. When she starts to do that, when more start to come down like an avalanche kind of thing, she can catch those rocks that are coming at her then. So everybody kind of let it just be her job to clear that passageway. And so now they have a way out. Right up the stairs here is now an abandoned tower, and they can get out of the Temple of Elemental Evil pretty quick if they need to. And that's going to come up in a minute because they're going to start rescuing some humans, and that is the becomes the new escape route. Okay, so next up, room number 152, torture chamber. There's this guy in here named Turnkey who's a torturer. And I would get banned from YouTube if I talked about the stuff he was doing. But let's say he's in a sick kind of way, he's almost like this temple's version of a cook. And there's the gnolls and stuff that need to eat something. He's cutting pieces off and giving it to him. And it mentions this in the module. And I thought that was pretty twisted. I was actually kind of surprised that was in there. So at any rate, the point is the party rogue gets to do a backstab because the turnkey is at work, right? And he's got a guy in front of him, and they mention Iron Maidens and all that jazz. He's got a guy in front of him on a table, and he's like amputating parts, right? And so the rogue comes up from behind him and takes his own piece of flesh, you know. So that was kind of interesting. They take him out. He had a bugbear assistant. They take him out as well. And now they rescue some humans in this room and send them down the hallway to that spiral staircase that's there close by so that they can leave. They can go up to the old tower there. Um, Room 149 was next. Guard room had 18 guards, and there was a big pit in here. And I actually realized, because again, like I say, there's parts in the book where it's easy to overlook something, right? And so earlier in the dungeon, I was supposed to put 4 earth elementals in that big dirt room with the pyramids, and I didn't. I missed it somehow, and I left that room empty, and I felt bad for doing that. So I stuck them in here. There's another big dirt pit here, and I thought that's a good place for earth elementals. Um, Again, the party wipes out everything in the room, right? Next, they go to room 120, and it's this kitchen. And I remember reading the description, and the irony is I haven't played this for like 20 years. And they describe how there's this massive fireplace in here that's so big you could roast a bison or something. And I'm like, why is this familiar? There's something bad here, you know? And at any rate, it turns out there's a giant snake in the fireplace. And that it also turns out that the werebear has a phobia of snakes. So he has to roll versus his phobia. He rolls a nat 1. So he's gone. He takes off. Um, the air maiden kills the snake. And that snake was vicious. That was, I want to say the bite damage was like 3d6. And then on top of that, then it's like a saving throw versus poison kind of a situation there. Next, they went to room 119, which is a banquet hall. Nothing really that great was there. There was a +1 shield on the wall covered in mold. And the Air Maiden ended up using that. Next, they went to room 114. A bunch of human prisoners were in here, and this was the moment when a bunch of people had to leave the party tonight. The actual New Year's Eve party, I mean. So we split the party here, and the idea was the people that were heading home, um, their characters then escorted the human prisoners up the spiral stairs to that tower. And so after this point now, the ones sticking around who are still playing D&D, because we still have people in our living room playing video games and watching YouTube and other stuff. As far as the ones playing D&D now, the party is down to Arthur, Max, and Eliza. So they go to room 115 where they take out 6 ghouls. Room 116 is another 6 ghouls. 117 is 2 ghasts. Room 118 is 2 ghasts. Room 112, armory. Nothing really there. Room 113, another armory, had a +3 crossbow bolt. Room 121, 4 gnolls. Room 122, 4 gnolls again. Room 123, 5 gnolls and 2 hobgoblins. The hobgoblins were kind of tough, actually. They were kind of neat. But again, all these things, we took them all out. Room 124, 2 ogres. Took them out. Room 125, this was a really cool moment in the game. The corridor of bones. So the 125 is shaped like a big letter T, basically. Huge room, bones all over the floor. And after they walk in, the bones kind of rattle and then go together and form these sort of Harryhausen style claymations. The skeleton army is too strong of a word, but it was 10 human skeletons and 6 gnoll skeletons. And so the bear had, I want to say it was in the last game we played, there was this hallway that had like a Gatlin heavy crossbow thing at the end, that was like a big problem for the party, and he ended up taking it with him. So he gets that out at this point, and he's using it kind of like a Gatlin gun, and he's using it on all these skeletons. And he kept getting these awesome rolls. You know, he'd roll a 20 or a 19 or an 18 and a 20 again, you know, that kind of thing. The amazing rolls, just boom, dead, boom, dead. And so we were reminded of Aliens, the director's cut, where they got those hallway monitor guns, and like the xenomorph keep flooding into the hallway and the big guns are taking them out. Pretty much the same idea, you know. So that was cool. Then also here, there's a secret door they found. They did a search check and find a secret door, which is a hole that goes down to level 2 of the dungeon. They didn't want to go down to level 2 yet. So they basically ignored it and moved on. From there, they go to room 126, where they fought the ogre leader. He was tough, but they took him out. And that was sort of the big climax of first half of our gaming tonight. And then 127 was just 3 gnolls. They were stragglers, and that was it. The epilogue to what we've done thus far tonight is room 110 was storage, nothing of consequence. Room 111 was the same, storage, nothing of consequence. And that's it. We finally beat level 1 of the dungeon. So I'm going to go ahead and post this now. It's about 11:45. I'm going to go back out to the party and we're going to start in on level 2 of the dungeon. So I don't know if it'll probably be too late for me to post that tonight, but I'll post that sometime soon. If you guys see this in time, Happy New Year's. Everybody, whatever you're doing tonight, have a safe one. And yeah, take care. I'll talk to you next time.